This week, Moto Guzzi announced a pretty significant update to their retro roadsters, the V7 Stone and V7 Special, with a bump in capacity leading to much more competitive power figures. There are plenty of other updates across the two bikes, so in today's video, we'll go over the details to see if these new V7s are up to scratch with the likes of the Triumph Street Twin and the Enfield Interceptor. But before we get started, if you're new here and you want to see more of the latest new bikes for 2021, then please do remember to hit subscribe. I'll be covering as many of them as possible and riding and reviewing them next year, so subscribe now if you want to see those videos as soon as they go live. Let's start with that engine update, which is welcome news to me. The old V7 put out about 50 horsepower, which is decent enough for a retro like this, but having ridden the V85 TT at its launch in Sardinia, I really enjoyed the larger capacity V-twin and thought it would be awesome fun in a more road-orientated bike. So the good news today is that the new, larger engine in the 2021 V7 is indeed a close derivative of the V85 TT unit. So whereas the old 744cc version was good for 52 horsepower at 6,200 RPM and 60 Nm of peak torque at 4,250 RPM, the new 850cc engine is capable of 65 horsepower at 6,800 RPM and 73 Nm at 5,000 RPM. That's a good 25% increase in peak power, which will really transform the riding experience, and almost 22% in peak torque. It's only perhaps a slight shame that it doesn't get the full power of the V85 TT. That engine revs up a little higher for 79 horsepower delivered at 7,750 RPM, but also has a bit more meat to it with 80 Nm of peak torque delivered at the same 5,000 RPM. Like I said, I really enjoyed that engine on the twisty roads of Sardinia. It was really satisfying driving out of the corners and had bags of character to it. But perhaps Moto Guzzi felt that the bigger, weightier bike needed more power and that a decent gap in specs would justify the more premium price. But the comparisons between the V7 and V85 aren't really that relevant as they're aimed at different markets. It's the other retros that really count. The current iteration of the Triumph Street Twin is capable of a similar 63 horsepower at 7,500 RPM, but delivers more torque from its 900cc parallel twin and lower down in the rev range too, with 80 Nm at 3,800 RPM. It gives it a really beefy feel when you drive off the line, although at 198 kilograms dry weight, it's 9 kilograms more than the V7, so the Moto Guzzi may well feel more sprightly on the road. The other key competitor is the Royal Enfield Interceptor, which this year has been the best-selling motorcycle in the UK, ousting the BMW R1250 GS from its perch. The performance figures aren't particularly exciting, with 47 horsepower at 7,100 RPM and 52 Nm of peak torque at 5,150, but that's not really what this bike is about. Starting at £5,699 on the road, the price is pretty much unbeatable and must be a massive factor in those huge sales figures. There's no pricing for the V7s yet, but the base Stone model typically comes in at around the £8,000 mark, so it seems unlikely that the new version will get anywhere close. That said, there are plenty of updates elsewhere which go some way to justify the price. There's a new, larger final drive and a wider 150/70 rear tyre, both of which are measures designed to accommodate the increase in power, along with a new pair of KYB shocks that Moto Guzzi describe as being more robust, as well as having a bit of extra travel. Visually, there are some tweaks too, with the larger engine giving it a more substantial look, some redesigned side panels, a shorter rear mudguard, and a slight revision to the exhaust layout. The headstock area of the frame has been strengthened to improve stability, whilst a new 2-tier seat and revised rider foot peg supports are said to improve rider comfort. The more modern-looking V7 Stone gets a new full LED headlight, with a daytime running light in the shape of the Moto Guzzi Eagle, much like the V85 TT's DRL. There's also a fully digital dash, which personally I'm not that keen on, as it's a retro motorcycle after all, but it does help to differentiate it from the Special. Other key features of the Stone are retained, like the cast aluminium wheels and satin paint finishes. For 2021, it'll be available in Nero Ravido, Azzurro Ghiaccio and Arancione Rame. I've no idea what any of those mean, but the pictures look good. As for the V7 Special, it has a more old school look with spoked wheels, twin analog clocks, a chrome exhaust and more glossy finishes. Two colours of blue formale and grigio casual or blue and grey are available. Personally, the Stone is more my style, but both look great and I'd be keen to try one out when they hit dealers next year. It's been a few years since I rode the previous generation, but I really enjoyed it and would love to find out what 25% more power feels like in this relatively light chassis given the class of bike. As always, I'd love to know what you think of it down in the comments below. Would you go for the Stone or the Special? And do you think that an extra 15 horsepower and some Italian style are enough to warrant the $2,000 price difference with the Enfield Interceptor? Let me know down in the comments, and if you're new here and you want to see more videos like this, hit subscribe and I'll catch you in the next one.